All right. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show presented by BetUS. Here after the Knicks lost to the Detroit Pistons, final score 124 to 119. Lots to talk about in this game. And I don't know if this is a silver lining, a gift or a curse, but it feels like for the first time in a while we could actually discuss the basketball involved in the basketball game, because there's a lot of legitimate basketball stuff to talk about as far as why the Knicks lost that game, as opposed to, it feels like for the first time in forever we don't have to talk about the energy or really that's really been the conversation, right? For a while now, do the Knicks have enough energy, and or shooting slumps? What other kind of amorphous things? Whether anybody's coming to play or someone's, not living up to their end of the bargain. Like, the Knicks showed up, like all their players went out and like played, commensurate games. Some guys had better games than others. Not everybody was great. I don't think anybody was terrible. We can talk about a rotation thing or two if you want. But at the end of the day, the Knicks lost that basketball game because they could not defend. And that is a bit of an issue. And it's an issue specifically in the way that they could not defend in this game. And you saw it down the stretch, specifically in the last, whatever it was, 5-6 minutes of the fourth quarter. And let me just say at the top, before I get into the X's and O's of this game, I wanted to say this at the top, that like these are not your slightly older cousins, Detroit Pistons, over the last 5 years. Like, this is a real team. I know there are only 2 games after over 500 after this, but they have now won. I think they have now won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of their last 12 games. Sorry, 11 of their last 13 games. Sorry, yeah, or 11 of their last 14 games. Yeah, I could add. So 11 of their last 14, 10 of their last 12. Their only 2 losses were close competitive losses to some good teams. So they're a real team. Like, they're here. I would not be surprised at all if they wound up in like the 6th spot in the Eastern Conference playoffs. But that's like, if you're a contending team, you're at home, it's a close game in the fourth quarter. Like, you still go win the game if you're a serious team who has its shit together. And right now, I think that's what's left for us to decide. Did the Knicks lose this game because they're not quite a serious team yet? And because they didn't have their shit together, or are there some real flaws here? And I think that's the direction that I want to go. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know the answer to that question, but before the season started, after they made the trade for Karl-Anthony Towns, the question was, can a team with 2 minus defenders, or if you don't want, if that's too harsh a term for some people out there, with 2 defenders who are targetable in different ways by a half decent offense, and like Detroit, I think I know whatever, they're not ranked in the top half of the league. Like, they're at the very least a half decent offense. Like, they have an all-star at the point of it. Like, they're leading the charge. He is refined and actually is excelling at the one weak spot that he always had in his game, which is the 3-point shot off the dribble. Hurt the Knicks in that way, which has completely changed the way that you have to guard him now. Can't go under anymore. You have to honor the 3. And they've surrounded him with shooters. And that's what people in Detroit have been saying for years. Like, just give Cade shooting around him. He's gotten better. They've put shooters around him, including arguably best pound for pound shooter in the game in Malik Beasley. If you look at his percentages over the last few years, you're not going to find many people better than Malik Beasley. And sure enough, it's Malik Beasley who hits 2 threes against them in the final, whatever it is, 60, 70, 80 seconds, the two key shots of the game. And why did Malik Beasley hit those 2 threes? It's because Josh Hart rotated off of him in the corner to go cover Tim Hardaway Jr. And the reason he had to go cover Tim Hardaway Jr. is because the Pistons put Tim Hardaway Jr. Into the action to get Jalen Brunson involved. And why did they do that? It's because Jalen Brunson's a weak defender. So how did the Knicks respond? Well, they weren't going to concede the switch because they did not want to have Jalen Brunson one-on-one against Cade Cunningham during a second half when he was truly feeling it. And so they both times briefly put 2 on the ball. Cade made the pass both times. Josh Hart rotated over to Timmy at the top of the key both times. First time, there was absolutely no subsequent rotation to Malik Beasley. Nailed the 3, obviously. Said the last play, the play that'll really stick in the Knicks' craw here. Cat, you saw a Cat flying out. He was late, or Josh Hart shouldn't have rotated as hard. Like, they didn't have their shit together. They didn't have their shit together. But to just watch that game and say, the Knicks defense stinks, I think that's, I don't, like, yes, it did stink in this game. They gave up 124 points at home to the Pistons. It stunk tonight. It was not good enough. Like, when they got a stop, you felt like, oh my God, what a reprieve. Like, what did we do to get this gift from the gods? That's not, like, if you're a contending team and you're celebrating stops against the Detroit Pistons, something is off. Or you're not a contending team. It's one of those two things. And I think the question now is to figure out, okay, why? What's the deal? Could we say that the Pistons are a particularly poor matchup for the Knicks because they have a lead initiator with real size? Yeah, you could say that, but you could also say that they have hiding places for Jalen Brunson. Like, you could hide Jalen Brunson on Timmy. You could hide Jalen Brunson even on Beasley as long as he stays connected. Like, so, and it's not like they have the sort of fives. I mean, I know Beef Stew had did a couple of nice things, especially in the first half, but it's not like they have fives that can really punish Cat, when they have the ball. So I don't think I'm going to buy that argument that this is like a bad matchup or something for the Knicks. I think what you have to look at right now is, and you could go in one of two directions. You could say it's like you're never going to be able to build a good enough championship level defense around Jalen Brunson or Karl-Anthony Towns, or you could build a championship level defense around Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. But in order to do so, the 3 wings that you went out and compiled, Josh Hart almost 2 years ago now, OG Anunoby a little bit more than a year ago now, and Mikal Bridges, I guess about 7 months ago now. Like, those guys have to be phenomenal. Not good, maybe somewhere between great and phenomenal. And when a team like that has it going, like, that's why you go out and you get an OG Anunoby. That's why you traded for Mikal Bridges. And to be very clear, I thought Bridges did some nice things against Cade, certainly in the first half. His defense against Cade in the first half was really good. In the beginning of the second half, when you knew Cade Cunningham was going to try to put his stamp on this game, I thought Mikal Bridges, who, granted, the Knicks wouldn't have even been in that game late in the fourth quarter if Mikal Bridges didn't hit a bunch of threes, so I want to just, like, get that out of the way. They needed him, and he did a lot more good than bad in this game. But, like, during that key moment of the game where the Pistons were like, yeah, we're going to – this thing's going to the fourth quarter. And actually, it was more than that. The Pistons, I think they went up by as many as 9 a few times there towards the end of the third, maybe in the beginning of the fourth. But, like, Bridges didn't put the cuffs on at the beginning of the third. And then what did they do after Cade Cunningham started 4 for 4 from the field in the third quarter? They switched OG Anunoby onto him. Well, guess what? That didn't work. I thought OG Anunoby was bad in this game. And I know he finished 5 for 9 from the field, only took 2 threes, missed them both. Like, that's a game where your 41 or $42.5 million a year investment has to be like, don't worry, guys, I got this. Cade's not beating you tonight. Cade's not beating us tonight. And they tried that. Tibbs tried that move 3 minutes into the second half. It didn't work. Now, again, am I putting this loss all on OG Anunoby? No, I'm not putting it all on OG Anunoby. It's not all on him. He's one guy. The way the NBA is today, you can't defend. Like, you need your team to defend an even half decent offense. And it's not all on OG. And then there was Josh Hart, who was the guy who rotated off of Beasley on those final 2 shots. Whereas, I mean, me and Benji just watched the game. It's like, let Timmy Let Timmy make a play. Why don't you show on? Don't completely rotate. Show on Tim, and then be ready to hedge back in time to contest the shot. Make Tim Hardaway Jr. beat you. Don't let Malik Beasley beat you, but he did. And those weren't the only plays from Josh because, and this is where we could get into a little bit of the coaching decision making. You really didn't feel Josh Hart's impact, and he was kind of soft on defense through a lot of that third quarter when the Pistons really made their push to go from a halftime deficit to going up by 9 because he had 4 fouls. And despite the fact that he had 4 fouls, he stayed in the game. Second half of the game, Deuce McBride played 3 minutes, which is borderline inexplicable. Especially when you factor in that the lineup that I thought was the best the Knicks looked in the entire game, certainly the best the Knicks looked on defense the entire game. And I know Cade may have been out for most or all of this stretch, but it was that stretch in the second quarter when you had Campaign. I even wrote down the lineup. It was Campaign. It was, thought I wrote it down. Yeah. Campaign, Deuce McBride, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, and Karl-Anthony Towns. That lineup really had something going. And they brought good energy, and it was everything you want. Now, he lengthened the leash on Campaign a little bit, gave Campaign a decent amount of run into the fourth quarter there. But he didn't give Deuce the run, which I was, okay. It's interesting. Maybe he doesn't feel like Deuce is all the way back yet. Maybe he doesn't feel like he's his usual self. I thought he looked pretty good in the first half. And you know me, very last person in Knicks land to ever call out anything that the coach does. But in retrospect, you wonder if maybe an earlier insertion of Deuce would have helped stem the tide there. Now, I say that about Josh Hart. Josh Hart did a lot of really good things in this game. He rebounded like a madman. He pulled down, I think it was a game high 14 rebounds, 4 on the offensive glass. The guy made a bunch of plays, I thought, over the course of time. But again, it goes back to the theory of the theory of the case, as I keep referring to it as. The theory of the case is those your perimeter defenders, when both Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns are in the game, the other 3 guys, when those 2 guys are in the game, have to be top-notch on defense. And they just were not tonight. We could talk about some other stuff. We could talk about Landry Shamet probably playing his way out of the rotation at this point. It was interesting he got back in the rotation tonight. Tibbs played a 9-man rotation in the first half for the first time, feels like, in a while. Didn't go great. Shamet was bad. I thought this was yet another poor game from Precious Achiuwa. Played only 10 minutes, and 5 of those were at the 5, or 5 of them were at the 5, 5 of them were at the 4, because Karl-Anthony Towns, 43 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back. Now, I know Towns didn't play a ton last night, but he played enough last night that I'm sure he's feeling those 43 minutes right now. Joel Embiid doesn't play basketball anymore, so I don't know if he's coming to the Garden on Wednesday for that matchup, but sure, either way, be nice, to have a fresh Karl-Anthony Towns on Wednesday. Hopefully he gets a lot of recovery in the next 48 hours. But and again, I'll give credit to Benji. He was calling it out as we were watching this thing on the playback. Tibbs clearly right now just has no faith in anybody else on this team to play center. You got a report from Stephen Bondi before the game that Jericho Sims is on the trading block. I mean, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about Jericho Sims' place on the team, I don't know what will. Precious Achiuwa, again, 5 minutes at the 5 tonight. And anybody who watches him at the 5, can you really argue? He has not been good. He has not been good this year. And so what is it? Is it we're sitting here, we're waiting for Mitch? I mean, I don't know. I mean, how long are we waiting for? Is it going to be early February? Maybe. Was it going to be 3 weeks? Is it going to be the All-Star break? That's a long time. It's a long time, and a lot of miles could be put on your All-Star and All-NBA likely center over the course of that time. If you if you don't watch yourself here. Is there another trade coming? The report, and again, Stephen Bondy said that Sims was out tonight because of back spasms, not because he's about to be traded. So we'll see what happens there. Haporti's a rookie. He's a 58th pick in the draft. Like, is that, you think that's the answer? So I don't know, but it all factors in. And like, yeah, there's other stuff we could talk about. The Knicks committed 19 turnovers tonight, which is like, that's just, it's crazy. 18 turnovers. They had him at 19 and they must have taken away a turnover. And Pistons scored, 21 points off those 18 turnovers, which isn't, relatively is not bad, but it's still way too many. You don't want to give up 18 turnovers. And we should probably talk about the key turnover of the game, the one that the Pistons smartly challenged. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and blame Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson, I thought, by and large, had a really good game. Ended up with 31 points and 11 assists, 12 of 24 shooting. Did have 4 turnovers, and Karl-Anthony Towns, 6 turnovers. Again, he had 26 points on 17 shots. Like, those are good stat lines from Brunson and Cat. But, like, again, it all comes back to the theory of the case. You assembled this team. So you got to – your non-Brunson, non-Cat people got to be pretty perfect on defense. And then Cat and Brunson – like, you're not going to say they have to be perfect on offense, but like, you don't expect them to botch what should have been an easy play. Like, Brunson should have just like hit Towns immediately on the pick and pop. And he didn't. And then it was a miscommunication. The ball went out of bounds. Like, that's the sort of thing that hurts. I'm not getting on Brunson for like, he missed the 3 late, whatever. Brunson did more than enough scoring. I thought Towns, from an offensive standpoint, was fine. And then I guess if you really want to take away a big picture silver lining from this game, it's Mikal Bridges, 6 of 8 from deep. And I mentioned it at the top, but I will close by that, and I'll give my autograph signature moment of the game to the Mikal Bridges 3 that made it 118 to 117. With I don't even know how many minutes remaining, but it was the biggest shot of the game by far. Massive pressure 3. The thing about Bridges is, like, yeah, that was with 126 to go. And then they actually got the stop on Cade. And by the way, Bridges, I know I just killed him a little bit for his defense at the start of the third quarter. His defense on Cade after that 3 on that very next possession was excellent. It was excellent. Forced Cade into a tough 19-foot step back jump shot. And that is when they should have had the opportunity to take the lead. And instead there was the turnover. And then you got the first of the 2 Malik Beasley 3-pointers, which was just a killer. So yeah, that 3 by Bridges, and the shooting game in general by Bridges, that's your autograph signature moment of the game. I'm going to come back to Bridges in a second. But go download the autograph app, use code KFS, get rewarded for your fandom. I know I said last night that my weekly 3x3 was going to be up today. It's going to be up tomorrow because I wanted to get my thoughts in on this game before I posted that. So stay tuned for that. Okay. One more thing. Kev, give me one more sec because I want to finish my point on Beasley or on Bridges, and then we'll go to the ad read, and then we'll go to the super chats. It would be easy for me to sit here and be like, okay, great. Bridges turned the corner. And I think back to, shout out to Benji again, his grade book it was free for everybody today. Usually it's going to be on Patreon, where he opened the Bridges section by saying, what a weird year, or what a strange year. I forget which word he used. I'll use the word odd. What an odd year, because it's not like he was atrocious for the first 19 games of the season, but he was not the guy that they thought they were going to get. Doing some nice things, doing some not nice things. And then he's essentially plays like an all-star for a month. And then the last 2 weeks, he's been kind of not exactly the same guy he was at the beginning of the year, but it's been like not great. And so now he has this great shooting game. I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to go on another little run here. It's just been a very up and down year for a guy whose calling card over the course of his career has been consistency. So I hope that this puts all of that behind him and it's only smooth sailing from here. But if you told me there was going to be some more up and down coming from Mikal Bridges, I wouldn't be shocked. But yeah, that's if you want to have a big picture kind of positive to take away from this game, I guess it would be Bridges. But for me, the bigger picture thing is a little bit more negative, which is, this is their bed that they made. This is their bed that they made, and like you have Karl-Anthony Towns on your team, you have Jalen Brunson on your team. Got to figure out a way to win games like this. Because sometimes the team is going to hit whatever they hit tonight, 44% from three. You got to figure out a way to get stops. And like I said on the playback, this wasn't the Cavs you were playing tonight, or the Celtics, or the Mavs. It wasn't any of those teams. Like, you really got to, they have to up their game. Do I think they could do it? Yeah, I think they can do it. It would have been nice to see it in the fourth quarter of a game that, like, I know I was watching it and I was like, man, it'd be nice to get one of these wins one of these days pretty soon. And they didn't get it.